My name's Alexander. So I sit on the editorial board at the London Reader, and I've also do some work with other businesses on logistics, procurement, and sustainability. And I've also been in your shoes. I sat on the UK Climate Assembly, which was the first sort of national assembly addressing the same things that you're addressing. It was how the UK could get to net zero. And so I was really excited to be able to be involved in this as well, because I understand exactly sort of some of what you're going through here and all the information being thrown at you and all the ideas you're coming up with and what you can do now. So I'll just quickly go over a bit about what I do and then go into some of the bigger questions. So let me see here. So yeah, so with the London Reader, we're a magazine publisher. We're Suffolk based, founded in Suffolk, and we're based in Peckham. We're printed and distributed in the UK, Canada, and the US. So sorry, so each issue is based around a different theme or topic. So we sort of go in depth into different issues. So we've looked at, I would say, important issues like mental health, the quarantine, animal rights, and things like that. So that's part of where I'm coming from here. Now, in terms of as a business, what are we doing to be more sustainable? Well, we try and focus on important issues. 10% of the revenue from an issue is donated to a charitable cause. And then we've spent hundreds of hours trying to research sustainable printing and logistics and distribution, but there's major limits there. So for printing, major distributors don't print on recycled paper. So that's not an option really. If you want people to read your publication, you need to have distributors. There's still no carbon neutral large scale transportation available. So there is, as Mandeep was saying, for some local deliveries, and as speakers last week were saying, but in terms of long range logistics, there's no sustainable options. For energy, we have renewable energy supplier, but when you're still turning on the lights, it's still drawing from the local network, and that's still not 100% renewable, it's still a mix. So even if you're paying for renewable energy, it's not actually renewable at the source. So this is one of the issues we did, and we interviewed Chris Hadfield for this issue. So he's the former NASA, he's a former Air Force pilot and a NASA commander for the space station. So you might know him. He was also famous on YouTube for his David Bowie videos. So he spent a lot of time up on the space station. When we interviewed him, he was really emphasizing, like, looking down, he realized that climate change is a real issue and something we needed to address. The question is how. He was saying it was very difficult for people to work it into your daily priorities, your regular thinking. It's even harder for people to prioritize, and for businesses and elected officials to prioritize when you have other things you need to deal with. And that's what we're facing as a business as well. You can spend a lot of time focusing on your carbon emissions, but you have a limited budget, you have deadlines, you have projects and a million tasks that need to be done. So you're dealing with all those things, and you're still trying to do the right thing, but there's real limits on what is possible. So that's his view, looking down. He spent a lot of time in that room looking down on Earth, and he was seeing climate change as a real issue, but like he recognizes there's limits to what we can do. So I think I'll tell you a little story quickly, hopefully.
Just coming up to halfway, Alexander.
Okay, that's great. So this is Vancouver in British Columbia. So normally the weather there is quite similar to Suffolk. It's kind of wet and temperate in the summer. It's not that hot. So it's, in some ways, many ways, quite similar to Suffolk. But unfortunately, just last July, they had this record heat dome. So the average summer temperatures there is 21 degrees. And last July, it reached 49.5 degrees, almost 50 degrees, so that's 30 degrees above average temperatures. And that just really catastrophic, led to hundreds of millions of dollars in damages, which local businesses also had to burden, and it killed 1 billion sea animals. So that's the kind of thing that's places are facing. And then just a few months later, in November of last year, they had record floods, and this shut off all road access to one of Canada's largest cities. And Canada's largest port, and the 4th largest port in North America. So that had huge impacts on businesses. You see a bunch of trucks there queuing to get past the flooding, and that, there's your logistics and your supply chain. So this is already impacting businesses, and this is 2 major catastrophes hitting this one area in 1 year alone. So this is David Suzuki, who we've also interviewed. He's a leading ecologist, and he's sort of Canada's version of Sir David Attenborough, leading public science educator. And for him, he sees, basically the global economy is one of the biggest drivers of our destruction. It can't keep growing. He's saying that growth is the creed of the cancer cell, and businesses sort of look at growth as a good thing, but we're seeing what it's already doing. That the Earth has already faced 5 major extinction events in the past, but each of those took about 10 million years, and now just in the course of 100 years, we've caused the next one. So yeah, the business case for addressing climate change, I'll just quickly run over this. Essentially, there's no jobs on a dead planet. There's no businesses on a dead planet. The economic cost of climate change is going to be much higher than we'd expected. There's recent research saying by the end of the century, it could be over half of the global GDP could be spent on addressing climate, like dealing with the impacts of climate change. So it's going to be very, very costly, and that's going to impact people. It's going to impact businesses as well. I'll just hopefully go into this. So this was the UK Climate Assembly that I sat on, and it was like we were discussing these issues, and it was just really exciting to be a part of that, and I hope that you're getting some of the same excitement out of it, and the ability to address these really important topics, really important issues. So some of the things that we'd recommended were things like
just about a minute left.
Okay. Investing in cycling and scootering facilities. So that fits in with what Amandeep was saying, or people were saying previously. Something else which was quite interesting for Suffolk is changing council tax or stamp duty. So how you could tie emissions into your stamp duty or business rates for businesses. So these are just some quick recommendations. I'll try and shoot them out at you. Basically, I think, this is your real opportunity to make a change. So just go as big as you can. This is a big issue, and we need to be as big and ambitious as possible. So I'd say, push Suffolk for, every decision they're making, zero emissions needs to be a part of that. No planning or policy should be put forward unless it addresses emissions and sustainability. So that can include things like strict requirements for carbon neutral buildings and planning applications, making any business support from the council depend on companies reducing their emissions. Any support for businesses can be tied to going carbon neutral, requiring businesses to do their sustainability reports showing their emissions, and then you can use those reports for any discretionary charges, things like business rates or awards from the council can be tied to, if companies are reducing their emissions. Focusing on developing the borough's sustainable 15-minute cities, investing in local areas with things like the low traffic areas, local delivery hubs, which speakers have already talked about, and then using, trying to have local deliveries with e-cargo bikes, as people were speaking about last week. And then finally, just keep the pressure on the council. The citizens jury can't just be a one-off thing. It needs to be maintained. So just push the council to have future citizens juries to monitor the progress from the directions that you give today and going forward. So thank you very much, and I hope that wasn't too much information in a few short minutes, but thank you.
Thank you, Alexander.